Hey guys, welcome back. Here we are again, another exciting episode of That Guy, That Girl, providing leadership and strategy solutions to small and medium-sized business owners. I'm your host, Mike Temple, leadership and strategy advisor and the owner of Temple Executive Coaching. And we are going to be continuing our theme today. And that theme, as you guys know, is that we need to control our cash so that our cash does not control us. We need to start dictating where our funds are being managed instead of them telling us how to manage. Because as we're kind of building and continuing on the benefits of working with your company budget, there are so many things that can be spotted within the budget itself. Trends. We all talk about trends because some trends are really good. Okay, we need to sustain those trends, but some trends can be freaking catastrophic, okay? And they can destroy your business. And you need to be able to spot them. And you've got to be able to root out those bad trends and then also dig down deep to find out what's causing these positive trends. So in this episode, we're going to discuss the importance and the principles of creating a budget. And now we're going to discuss preparing a budget using your own data, your own historical data. Having maybe around at least 3 years of historical data to kind of spot these trends and to kind of gain an understanding of what they are. So to tell us how to do this, all right, using her own firsthand experience with this problem is Donna Febus. Let's reintroduce Donna. Gosh, Donna. I love your background. I love your bio because she's a veteran in the industry. She's got 29 years of experience in doing this, guys. All right. She holds a bachelor's degree in accounting, business management, as well as a master's degree in accountancy. She has experience working with clients in various industries, such as the logistics industry, construction, restaurant, e-commerce. She was even an assistant auditor for the state of Washington. And as always, Donna, thank you for coming back. And if you guys hold to the end of this, Donna's going to tell you how she used her experience in spotting trends. And get this, I kid you not, you can't make this up. Donna, in working with the budget, spotted a bigamist. 5 wives this dude had. And Donna found it in the budget. But anyhow, Donna, tell us with your practical experience, what have you seen in dealing with this problem?
Yeah, so thanks for that, Mike. You just totally caught me off guard because, I always forget about that story. And it's just like, wow, the things that you can find when you're looking at a budget. So there's one of the things that I've experienced, but on a higher level and more across the board, problems that I've seen and experienced when I've been working with, the various industries and my clients, construction, transportation, is that, these companies will establish a budget, but then, they don't use it. So you can establish a budget and use prior year information, but they blindly follow it. And, so what I mean is, instead of using what they actually happened throughout, say, a year's time,
right,
to make actual, business decisions from real data, they're using essentially false numbers because it's not real.
Okay. So you said a couple of things there. You said one, blindly following. All right. And the other one was, they got to be using it. What do you mean by blindly following and to, use the budget? They're not using it once it's been created.
So, yeah. So when you're blindly following a budget, it means that you're not using it. You're blindly following. You're blind to what's happening because you can prepare a budget at the beginning of a day, beginning of the year, whenever you're going to create it. And it's never too late, by the way, to create a budget. I don't care what month it is. But when you create it and then you just leave it you have to look at it every month, just like what we talked about in our previous episodes. You know, when we were talking about creating the budget, we looked at it as, you know, a month by month. Let me just show you that real quick.
Please do.
So the audience, you know, can see, you know, what I'm talking about. So this is your monthly budget.
Okay.
And you're going to revisit it every month so you can see your actual numbers versus what you actually came up with.
Okay.
So, but just to you know, step back for just a second, when you're blindly following it, you're just looking, you know, you're either looking at your numbers that you came up with, but you're not looking at what you actually did.
Okay. All right.
And the other ones, they just create it and they don't follow it. And a little bit, you know, in a little bit, I'm going to show you what happens when you do that. And it's not pretty. So
Bigamist starts flying every which direction, Donna.
Yep.
It's an absolute mess and catastrophe. All right.
Yep. Definitely so.
All right.
So just like last time, I'd like to give a visual for those who are able to actually watch us. And I'm going to do my best to use, you know, good language so that those who are just like listening to their, you know, in the car or on the radio or whatever, so that they know what I'm talking about and they can make sense out of what I'm saying. So interrupt me if I fail to do that, because sometimes I forget. So here we go. I'm going to share my screen.
Please do.
And I'm going to bring up, all right. Okay. So last time, this is what we were talking about. And this is the spreadsheet we were using for our monthly budget, right?
Right.
So when we develop a monthly budget, you can see in columns C and D here that I'm looking at, we've got our budgeted column and we have our actuals column, which is, you know, the month is over and we're going to go back and we're going to review what actually took place, right?
Right.
So then, you know, you talk about trends. You know, you mentioned trends at the beginning of the podcast. You have good trends, you know, you have ones that are catastrophic. We're going to look at the catastrophic ones here in just a bit, but good trends are, you know, ones that you can identify that, you know, are healthy. You know, they go, you know, month by month or year by year. You know, they're just kind of where they're supposed to be. And so just lost my train of thought. Sorry. No. I've got numbers rolling around in my head and it's Friday.
And you've been working with clients.
Yeah, it's been a long week actually. It's like, wow, you know, today's only Friday, you know, I'm so ready for the weekend. Anyway, so yeah, so you want to make sure that you're understanding the difference between what your budget versus your actual, right?
Right.
Blindly following means you might just be looking at your budgeted column and pay zero attention to the actual. Now I want to move you to the new sheet that we're going to use today.
Okay.
That is going to show, you know, how we use our historical data to build our next budget off of true numbers that will actually give you a better picture of, you know, where your trends are and maybe what you should be looking at for preparing the budget. Okay.
Okay.
All right. You with me so far?
We're with you. We are with you. Okay.
Okay. You ready?
Wow, look at this one.
This one's a little bit more involved, right? Doesn't have to be, but this is the one that I use for working with my clients.
Okay.
And so this is a projection type setup where you're projecting and you can see we've got 3 years of historical data present here. And then we have a 3-year outlook of our projected numbers. And those can change based upon, you know, what you want to target for, you know, like your sales growth or, you know, your reduction in costs and stuff. So I'm not going to go too far into the weeds on that, but just to give a little clarification on, how these numbers, are, progressing as the projected 3 years, kind of plays out. So we mentioned good trends and bad trends.
Yeah, look at this sales and income.
Let me
Holy
just
moly.
tell you, what do you think about that? Are you going to say, A, this is a good trend, or B, this is a bad trend? And I really hope you choose B.
Yeah, this is a catastrophic trend. So if I'm reading this right, Donna, it said in the historically in 2018, this company, now is this somebody you're working with now?
This is in fact a true customer that I am currently working with, and I'm not going to give you their name, so just to keep it confidential, but these are real numbers from a real company.
Holy smack!
They did not have control. They did not keep a budget. I created this from historical data and uploaded into my system to give them an idea of what is happening, because you can't see it. And, if you're not using it, as we mentioned, you have to use it in order for it to be effective.
Wow.
They weren't using it.
Yeah. Okay. 2018 sales, 914,400. That's nothing to throw in the, to shake a stick at here. That's not bad. But then in 2019, the sales dropped from 914,000, and this isn't even COVID time, but they dropped from 2018 from $900,000 roughly to 2019 to 570,000. Yeah. And then at the end of 2020, they had dropped to 500,000. Holy smokes.
Exactly. And that's just your top line.
That's the top line.
That's the top line. We haven't even gotten to the good part yet, So this is a bad trend, So
I would say.
Yeah.
I would say.
So one of the benefits of using a budget, and when you're actually diving in on a monthly basis, looking to see what has transpired, you can spot problems. Yeah. They could have spotted, why are sales down? We targeted $50,000 for the month. Why are we only at 32? You'll be able to, in real time, identify what is happening that is, good or bad, and make, and adjust from there, right? So you can dive, that's when you're going to want to dive deep into the numbers to understand why it's like that. There could be multiple reasons. It could be your sales are in the toilet. It could be because, 3 trucks broke down, or, some of your jobs canceled, it could be any number of things. It could be that somebody has made a gross error in the books. It really could be anything, but you don't know unless you dig in and you look for it.
Wow.
So it's very helpful to have this and follow it month by month. It just keeps you very involved and very, clear on where your business actually is.
Okay. So then you dove back in, Donna, and went back and looked at what actually had happened, budgeted it out, put it in its correct categories. What other trends did we see here? Because we're gonna have to figure something out for the next 3 years. Oh, geez, look at this other one.
So this is fun. Look at our overhead. So it's 732,000 in 2018, and 2019 it's 513.
But
they only had sales of 555. That was their gross profit. Hello.
Holy
that doesn't leave anything, for profit really to speak of,
Yeah.
And then look at the trend up in 2019. Is that 2020? Sorry.
That's 2020. Yeah.
But the sales dropped. So you're going in the wrong direction here.
So sales dropped from 2019 of 570,000. They dropped to 500,000 in 2020, but your overhead increased from 2019 of 513,000. It increased to 641,000.
Yeah.
What the
What is
are you
that?
adding to in overhead as your sales drop?
Right. Yeah. What in the world is going on here? Right.
Yeah.
So, some of I'm going to just, just for the sake of time, I picked a couple of categories that I wanted to highlight here.
Please
Okay.
do.
So, and the other thing is, sustaining. So sustaining, it would have been nice if they would have sustained this number right across the board, or had it trend upwards. So you have, numbers that you want to sustain, but then you have numbers that obviously need to be, adjusted and looked at. So I just wanted to point that out because I had forgotten to mention that earlier.
Right.
So let's look at office expense. Let me go down here and find it here. So office expense is usually pretty even across years, right? In this particular example, now remember, this is a real company. This is real numbers from someone's financial data, okay? In 2018, $1,000, very reasonable.
Sure.
2019, 10,300. What the hell are these people buying? And worse, in 2020, it went up to 18.5.
Wow.
Huge flag. How do you use that much in an office of 4 people? $18,000 in office expenses. And I looked into these because, again, you're going to dig into the numbers to see what is in there, because this is astronomical for a just crazy number.
Okay.
They were actually office supplies, and I don't know if they were, buying them for their homes or what, but they all were like things from Office Depot and stuff like that. And they were all small dollar amounts throughout the year, but 18 grand. That is not controlling your money.
Jeez.
And mind you, again, they didn't use a budget. They didn't track anything. Wow. They just said, hey, we're losing money. Well, yeah.
Okay. All right. So, and this is, I could see maybe, and how many people were working at the time, Donna, for this organization? 4 people. So I understand if maybe you got to help people get set up remotely for, the 2020 COVID craze, but 18 grand for 5 people?
Yeah, no, the only thing those people are going to need to take home is a computer they already have from the office. There's no need to buy extra computer equipment. And even if you did, it's not going to be to that tune of kind of money. Monitors are $100 a piece nowadays. So, what do they need? Some pens and a couple pieces of paper, all of that stuff. It's just relocating the same, the same supplies, really. You're not, right. You don't really need to buy extra unless, maybe there's some certain circumstances in which that wouldn't be a true statement. But for the most part, you're not going to need extra stuff like that. So right. This is way out of control. So let's move on real quick. I want to show you repairs and maintenance, another jumping ground for stuff,
Right.
Anyway.
Another dumping ground.
2018, $1,500, very reasonable. Even in 2019, we got $2,200. That's still reasonable.
Right.
But look at 2020.
12 grand.
What were you repairing? You rent an office, you've got auto expenses up here, which, by the way, is another ridiculous number. Okay.
Gosh,
so what are you repairing here? You probably have no idea. So this is,
I guess if we were to kind of
out of control.
Yeah, try to dig deep, so to speak, and say, I mean, are we in? And I guess you could even use this, Donna, for projecting out. You said this individual's leasing the office. I guess if maybe there's agreed upon repair and maintenance terms between you and the landlord, then maybe you got to look and say, hey, look, if we are in a building that is X amount of years old, and there's some repairs that are starting to come around that we're going to be accountable for, is this a trend, or is this, kind of a one-shot deal, or are we in a location where, based on the age, we're going to have to start repairing a lot of stuff? Exactly. I don't know, but from a $1,500 to $2,100, and then all of a sudden $12,000.
Yep. And, even at that, and I mean, that's a really good point, is you do want to know, is this going to be the new norm?
Yeah.
Or is this just a one-time deal? But, beyond that, and just like a little more high level detail, whatever you want to call it. If you are renting a place or leasing it rather, and you have a contract where, you're going to have to pay for certain things, you would want to show that as an asset and show it as a leasehold improvement, which, would lay on your balance sheet, not your profit and loss. You can always 100% depreciate it, but it wouldn't be a repair and maintenance. But that's another conversation, but just saying. Anyway.
Wow.
Yeah, so these are crazy numbers, completely out of control. Had they been looking at this month by month, they would see that this was escalating quickly, because this is an average of $1,000 a month. So they would have caught that, right?
Right.
So the other one that was interesting for these guys is payroll taxes.
No.
Okay. I want you to look at salaries. They're not too bad. They are trending down, which is something that you would want to see if you were making less money. I would expect that you would be this would be a whole lot lower going forward with, this is almost 50% of your entire gross revenues for the year. That's a little excessive, but on a plus side, it is trending down. But then you look at payroll taxes, this is wrong.
How in the world can you have salaries and wages at 2018 of $352,000, but your payroll taxes was 165?
You cannot.
Then all of a sudden you jump into 2019.
I'm going to guess that they weren't being paid. Okay.
The owner needs to know this. This is what you mean by setting it and then blindly following. You're not even blindly following as the owner. And if you've got a board of directors, you're accountable for these numbers, even if you have hired someone to help you manage on the financial side.
Yep.
All eyes go back to you. But that is, that's a red flag. $165 in payroll taxes in 2018 based off of $352,000 in salaries and wages. $165. And then in 2019, you're at $279,300, and you've got your payroll taxes at 25, about $26,000.
Yep. Yeah.
But wow, then then you jump to 2020 of $225,000 in salaries and wages, and then your payroll taxes is about $13,300. It just, what the Hades is going on?
Exactly. There's no rhyme or reason to this. You can't follow it. It makes zero sense. The only thing that makes sense for 2018 is that taxes weren't getting paid. And these ones are a huge fluctuation. And there's only $54,000 of a difference here.
Yeah.
That's not enough to make a 10,000, well, more than that, $10,000, $12,000 increase in payroll taxes. This is something, again, they could be true, but why are they true? You don't know that until you look at it.
It's a good
point. Going into, digging in, right?
Right.
Asking questions. Why is this here? Why did we do that? Is this normal? Is this, just a one-off deal? So you want to be asking those questions, and you can't ask them if you're not looking at it. So look at how this all affects their bottom line.
Wow.
So you remember up here, you know, we dropped a lot, right?
Gross, yeah.
So,
Gross profit
yeah.
just plummeted.
Right. Okay. And then we had 732 in 2018 for your, you know, your overhead costs. Then it dropped to 513. And then it went back up to 641 in 2020 when it was our sales were the lowest for the 3 years.
And overhead goes up.
Yeah, crazy. Makes zero sense. So our operating profit for 2018 was 181. And then look how it dropped in 2019, dropped down to 39,000 bucks.
Wow. From $181,000 in operating profit
Yeah.
to 39 grand
Which,
in just 1 year.
yeah, great. You're still in the positive.
Yeah,
There's a
that's a
bonus
victory.
there. You know, that's a sunshining moment. Hey, we made money, right?
Yeah,
But
we're winning.
we're winning. Yeah. Who used to say that? Charlie, what's his name? Charlie Harper. But that's not his name.
well renowned, well known Charlie Harper. I don't know,
Yeah.
the guy at the corner bar. Everybody knows Charlie.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so, and then you go, let's go over here, you know, to 2020. We dropped 55 grand from 2019 to 2020 in gross revenues, but our operating expenses went up like crazy. Well, look what it does to your bottom line. 141,000 in the hole.
Jeez Louise.
That's going to take a while to dig out of, and it's going to take a lot of work. A lot of, you know, a lot of effort to pull yourself out of that, because
right.
You know, if you're trending and that's your new norm, you've got a problem. You have a problem. And I've told you before that the only way to change this number is two ways: increase your revenues or reduce your expenses. That is the only way you can grow bottom line and improve your profitability. Only way.
Wow.
You can't get it from any other way. You can say, well, you know, we could do this or we could do that. No, it always comes back to those two particular things. So 141 in the hole.
141 grand in the hole.
Yep. So if we use, let's take it a little bit further and go into, let's go back to the top, and we're going to look at our projected for the next 3 years. Okay, we'll show you an idea of how you're going to dig out, right?
Okay.
So you have to
budget to dig out.
Yep.
Okay.
You're going to have to budget to dig out. So high level, let's say that we're going to grow our revenues by 3%. Okay.
Okay.
So very small increments here, right? But at the same time, let's say that we need to reduce our overhead by 10%.
Okay.
Okay. So you can see through here, through these numbers for the various expenses, like let's go back to repairs and maintenance. If this was your new norm, and we're just going to assume it is for this exercise, look how, you know, they're still super high.
Yeah.
Right. So then you can go back and think of, that's blindly following a budget. If you take 2020 and you blindly just plug in those numbers for the following year, you're not going to make any headway. You're working off of crap numbers.
Yeah.
Right. So again, going back and saying, what is this number? Why is it here? Is this new? Or is this just a fluke deal because we were stupid and didn't pay attention? Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, but you know, a 10%, you know, some companies are very, very tight with their margins, and you know, they have a lot of expenses that they've created. So if you want to turn something around that's in this bad a shape, you have to make some significant changes. And so you need to go in and say, well, you know, why was travel? Look at this as another one. Why do we need to travel, you know, up and down, up and down? I would say more like around 14. look at the significant difference that that would make.
Well, that I see. I think Donna, travel was like in 2018, $2,800, 2019,
travel.
12,900. Yeah.
I said travel, I meant taxes and licensing.
Yeah,
I'm
taxes.
Sorry.
Jeez.
Yeah, 177 grand. Hey, you know what? Maybe that's where their payroll taxes were. They put it in the wrong spot. But you would find that if you were looking at it, right?
Right.
So in any case, you know, you've got these ups and downs. And so, you know, you just have to understand your numbers so that you can understand what it's going to look like going forward and how long it's actually going to take you to make it, you know, get back to the, you know, get back into the black, right?
Right.
So in this particular instance, using a 3% increase in revenues and a 10% reduction in our expenses for a year, it takes us to the second year out to turn a profit. And even at that, it's a very tiny one.
Right.
$8,300. You're in the black, great. You're essentially breaking even at that point.
Right. We'll
right?
take it. We'll take it,
We'll
especially
take
after
it.
this past year. We'll take it. We'll take a
We
break
will
even.
take it. So let's look at, you know, we look at the following year. What is that? 2023. We are increasing again, 3% over the 3% we did the increase in 2022.
Right.
Okay. But we're reducing our operating expenses again by another 10%. This is very, very common in corporate America. They're always trying to reduce down costs, right?
Right.
Small businesses, contractors, restaurants, you know, transportation, every industry wants to be paying attention to what it's costing them to run their business. Because every dime that you spend in your costs comes right off of your net profit, right?
Right. Wow.
So this is for this 2023, you know, following those same, you know, growth and overhead reductions, the company would manage to make about 76,000 at the end of all said and done.
Okay.
Right. So yeah, so that's kind of what the trending, you know, you're using the trends to identify, you know, what's good, what is bad. Obviously, the ones that we've looked at are, you know, extreme and they're not positive.
Right.
You know, they really need to be looked at. You know, if we would have seen a trend in the opposite direction and say, you know, your 914 grand was in 2020 versus 500 over here.
Yeah.
That would be a good thing. That would be an awesome trend. Let's keep that one going.
Right.
Right. And project out even more growth. But beyond, you know, just putting in numbers blindly and just being lazy about it. If you go in and, you know, let's say, so we have an identified baseline to go off of, right?
Right.
So let's use one of these positive, you know, ones that are pretty even. So let's use the dry cleaners. That's an easy one. And by the way, dry cleaning is not a business expense. I'm just going to put that out there.
We got to dig deep to find something that trended positive. Dry cleaning.
Yep, dry cleaning. Okay. This is a pretty stable number. So you could probably go with that.
Dude, it's pretty $700 a year in dry cleaning.
That's a lot of
crazy to think that's
suits.
nuts? I don't know.
Well, this is an attorney's office. So, you know, they got suits they got to wear to court.
I got it. All right. I got it.
Anyway, so that's a pretty good number that you could actually use.
Yeah. And it's a great business forward. To start. Dry cleaning.
Yeah. So, and even at that, you could reduce the numbers down. Maybe you wear your suit twice a week to the office. I don't know. But anyways, these are stable. The others that we showed, you know, earlier are not.
Right.
So you want to have that baseline. So once you have the baseline of what a firm number that you think is reasonable, then you're going to look a little bit further into, the coming years. Let's say that you're a manufacturer and you've got a new product line coming out. You want to identify, what is that going to do to our revenues? Are we expecting and projecting, that we're going to increase our sales by $1 million? Let's use the attorney, for example. Are we going to move into and start servicing clients in a different area? So let's say we're going to do, we're going to add divorce, like the family stuff into what we're doing, in what's one of the ones they do, personal injury. So if we're going to add a product onto something, we can project, what we anticipate, how many clients that we're going to get, and what the average cost of those are, using KPIs, using, some research on, what others are charging and what is that command,
That's a good point, Donna. I mean, what if there was nothing really off? I'm going to say off or construed with the sales numbers, the gross sales. What if nothing really changed based off of client, based off of our price? It leads to the question: is this a profitable business model? Manufacturing is based off of what we've been manufacturing and selling. Is there a market for this? Is it profitable for us? We may get a lot of orders for this stuff. Right? But it's not profitable based off of what it costs to make it, and based off of the data that we have. That's the key point. Based off of the data that we have and how we have been tracking our budget, how we've been tracking the trends through our budget, we may have to make some changes. We may have to introduce a more profitable product line. And if we do, how are we going to get ourselves out of this hole at 500 grand? We need to trend back up. Doesn't necessarily mean, I think you used the example of 3% increase in sales, Donna, is that right?
Yeah, I did in this example.
We don't have to knock the cover off the ball, hit a home run the following year to get out of this. We just have to be consistent and steady and keep an eye to the numbers, to the budget, as to what is happening, and not after the fact.
Yeah.
Wow.
If you could get to the break even point in year one, of your projection, that would be phenomenal, because at least you're not going into the hole. Because at this point, if you're in the hole and the company has no assets and their equity is garbage, which, by the way, this one was, you're pulling that out of your pocket, which then turns around, becomes this bigger problem. You're working for nothing.
Yeah.
What are you working for? To go in the hole? It's like being on a diet and eating Cheetos, right?
Working out in the morning on the treadmill and then having a breakfast of Diet Pepsi and Cheetos. It's just.
Yeah. Or like me. I would walk 4 miles on the treadmill and then I'd sit my ass on the couch and eat a big old bowl of ice cream.
Is this a
and wonder why I wasn't losing weight? It's logic. It's common sense. But, a lot of times people just are too busy to figure this shit out. They don't want to. They just want to do what they love to do. They don't want to do this stuff. But as an owner, you have to. You have to be engaged.
That's an excellent point, Donna. As a business owner, as a visionary, something you love doing, what you love to do, you might not want to look at anything else. And if you're not guarding the numbers, you're trusting somebody else is. And if you continue down this road, you're not going to be able to do what you love doing anymore, because you're just going to flat out go out of business. As a business owner, you're no longer, this is a maturing business. You have to mature as an entrepreneur. You have to, at some point, leave the mindset of the exciting glamour of a startup, and you've got to move your mindset into a maturing organization. And that might mean you've got to start diving into the financials. Where are we? What are we trending? Is this profitable? Here's the tough thing: is what I love doing, is it profitable anymore in the market? Might not be. How can I reinvent? How can I pivot? If what I love doing, there's sufficient price pressure on what I love doing, and it's just not profitable for us to do anymore. We got to reinvent ourselves and find what else is. Wow. That is nasty. That's That's nasty stuff. Nasty trends here. So,
Yeah.
Donna, as we kind of wrap up here, and this is, again, this is a perfect example of managing to the budget, creating your budget, and blindly following means you just don't plug the number in and then you just set it and go. You put the number in, you manage to it. You're involved with the numbers. You're spotting what's happening. Because if you call someone in like Donna, who's our virtual CFO, the last thing you're going to want her to do is to find a bigamist in the organization. Donna.
Oh, geez.
I got to hear this story again. And those who hung around with us, Donna found a dude with 5 wives. I can't make this up. Donna, how did this happen?
Yeah, I know. So everybody who's listening or watching, sit down for this. This was insane. So several years ago, I was working with a client and I was working with his budget, doing what I do, right? Anyway, so we get this call. By the way, this is a transportation industry company, and we had 13 drivers and a brokerage. So one of the drivers calls in one day and says, "Hey, my parents were just in a fatal accident in Missouri."
Oh, geez.
And we're like, "Oh shit, we're so sorry. Oh gosh, what can we do?" What did we do? We gave him $500 in a con check and flew him home to Wisconsin, I think it was. Then we flew one of our other drivers down to pick up his truck that was fully loaded, with produce actually, which, if you're a trucker or, a broker, exactly how fragile, produce can be. So
Yeah.
Anyway, a day or two went by and, at this point, the guy's calling in and talking with the owner and, advising him of what's going on. And he tells him, he tells the owner, yeah, so, we've got the funeral, such and such, and I got to figure out, I don't even know what to wear. And long story short, we sent him more money. He needed a suit, because we're feeling bad. We want to help the guy, we care about him, and we want him to be okay because he's lost both of his parents.
Yeah.
So let me just fast forward like a week, maybe 2. It's been a while ago, but we sent him a few $1,000s. Well, his communication with us started kind of dwindling a bit.
Right.
He had a company phone, so we were trying to reach out, check on him, ask him how things were going. When he thought, at that point, it's been a few weeks, when are you going to plan to come back to work so that we can make arrangements? We've got a truck to run, we've got to, the company has to keep going regardless of what the employee was going through personally. So as it was becoming more and more difficult to get a hold of him, I started getting a little suspicious, right? So how your little hairs stand up on the back of your neck and you're like, something's not right here.
I'm never shaving the hairs on my neck again.
Yeah. You want to be able to feel them when they start rising up, right?
Oh, foolish.
And it doesn't matter how long your hair is. I have mine put up today, but it's pretty long. It doesn't matter how long they are, they still stand up. Anyway, so I decided to bust out my PI skills. So I should have been a private investigator if I wouldn't have been an accountant, but I still get to do that investigating stuff when I'm, digging into stuff. But I started with the company phone records, and because, again, he had a company phone.
Right.
So I just kind of went through the numbers and I started noticing, I'm like, well, there's a lot of repeating numbers here. I wonder who those people are. Maybe they're family members. Let me just call them.
See if they can tell you where he's at.
Right. Is he okay? Is he alive? Where's he at? We need to get a hold of him. He's our employee, right? Several phone calls later, I've met all kinds of people. And you wouldn't believe, I swear, people wouldn't even believe that I found 5 wives.
Whoa.
I said, you know, what's your name? And she's like, oh, you know, it's so-and-so. And I'm like, you have the same last name as our, you know, what's your relationship? I'm his wife. When you hear that 5 times, you're like, what's going on here? We didn't ever, I didn't ever tell the other one that, you know, oh, I just spoke to his wife, really? You know, but
Holy
so
moly.
I'd met all kinds of wives, 5 of them, you know, spread all across the country, starting in California, of course.
Of course.
And, you know, he was an East Coast, you know, West to East Coast driver. So he had them all across America. Every perfect stop for your, you know, your 10-hour work, you know, driving hours, you know, and he had the perfect place to stop. Didn't even have to pay for a hotel or sleep in the sleeper.
Well,
He
so
got to
there's a
sleep with his
financial,
wife.
yeah, he saved you guys money. In the long run, he saved you
did.
money for.
Thanks a lot, you know. Anyway, so all these ladies knew me, but they didn't know each other.
Oh my
Had no
gosh.
clue. I wasn't the one that was going to tell them, but I did find that, you know, the 5th wife,
Yeah.
she had a baby.
Ooh.
Yeah, they had a baby together. Super unfortunate. And we didn't tell her, but she did find out that their marriage was illegitimate because,
Oh my word.
yeah. So that was super sad. And, you know, we talked with her quite a bit, you know, because, you know, when we found out that she found out and that kind of thing, it was super hard for her. The worst part of the whole deal, Mike, was the parents never died, which is something else that I found out in my investigation.
No kidding.
They were, praise God, they were alive and well in Wisconsin. You know, nothing, they were never even in Missouri. So it was all just
even in Missouri at the, wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, great for him that his parents were alive, but he was a complete phony. He was a liar. But the things you can find out just by doing a little sleuthing.
Just by holding a budget.
Yep. This all was because we used a budget and actually committed to using it.
It's adultery abound here, people. When you hold a budget, okay? It's God's will. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, Donna.
God wants us all to use a budget.
Make your peace with God and have a budget. All right.
Yep.
Hey, Donna, again, thank you so much for your time, your insight, your effort with this practical.
Welcome.
Remember, guys, part of these segments is the stuff that is really happening within your organization. Donna just presented to you a real life client that she's worked with. I also speak from experience working with my clients. Sometimes we don't have the budget. Sometimes we don't even manage to that budget. And we wonder why the following year we did not have the increase where the money went that we were expecting. So, hey, guys, again, thank you so much for listening in and watching another segment of Typical Executive Coaching, That Guy, That Girl, providing leadership solutions to small and medium-sized business owners. If you listened all the way through, we appreciate you so much. And again, till we see you next time, looking forward to you. Bye-bye.